Hey guys, so this is the editorial analysis of newspapers for today, that is the 4th of February, which will be presented to you by me, Dipanshu Singh. So in case if you wish to read more about me, you can go through this slide. You can also follow me on Unacademy on clicking this link or copying pasting in your browser so that you can get updates and notifications of my video and on my courses. And please rate and review the course if you like this course and if you think that this course is really beneficial for you guys in your preparations, and recommend each and every video if you like that day's video in helping us reach out to maximum number of people. So not much in today's newspaper. So only three articles from today's paper, one from the Hindu, Live Mint and Indian Express. And the practice question for today is, what are the reasons of low tax compliance in India, and suggest measures to improve it, taking cue from the recent budget announcements. So you can go to the Unacademy's Discuss page by clicking this bubble from unacademy.com's homepage. So you will be redirected to this Unacademy Discuss page where you can answer these questions from the February course, below the February course. So the first article talks about the environmental impacts of the recent oil spill on the near Chennai's coast. So there is a huge destruction and a significant amount of destruction caused by a part of the Chennai's coastline due to the oil spill, which followed a collision between two ships. So there was a collision between two ships, and it's really surprising that in spite of all technological advancements in GPS and communication technology, the collision took place in one of the most highly sophisticated ports of India, that is Chennai's Kamaraj Airport. So a consequence of that was that a large quantity of oil was released into the sea, which affected the marine life and livelihoods of the coastal communities. So if you look at this image, so this is the oil floating over the waters, and the Coast Guard is basically mandated of cleaning this, and has a huge responsibility of taking care of this coastal disasters as per the National Oil Spill Disaster Contingency Plan. And apart from that, the heartening thing to see was that a lot of local people came up with buckets to clean the oil spill once they saw a lot of fishes and turtles dying off and coming off ashore. So the ship collisions are generally very less common today because of the new advancements in GPS technology. So if you look at the effects of the spill, it is apparent that the first response to the Chennai's collision of the LPG tanker and the fuel carrier of the Kamaraj Airport was seriously deficient, because initially the ports denied that there was any environmental damage from the oil. But as soon as the after effects of the oil spill came to notice, when a number of turtles and fishes, dead fishes were coming ashore, so they began to take action afterwards, and it became obvious that the spill had not been quickly contained. So these basically failures reflect upon the question of the efficacy and the efficiency of the National Oil Spill Disaster Contingency Plan that is actually updated periodically for all stakeholders, notably the ports and under the leadership of the Coast Guard. So that is why I told you that Coast Guards are responsible for taking these operations related to oil spills. So considering the oil pollution is caused not just by catastrophes but also through the discharge of ballast water, sludge and water used for the cleaning of tanks. So ballast water, if you remember, and you should remember this, that India has also signed a convention on prevention of introduction of contaminated water from the ballast of the ships, or introduction of which you call the invasive species can actually accidentally be introduced in a certain ecosystem, particularly from one country to another. So India has also signed this ballast water convention so it's already a signatory to it. So in spite of all this, there are numerous incidents of misuse and not following of proper procedural guidelines by these container ships. And the efficacy of the chemical dispersants has also been in question. To degrade the oil at sea remains controversial, because even though Terry is working on an oil zapper that will degrade this marine oil, but then the efficacy of this chemical dispersant also remains controversial. So all this basically underscores the importance of a timely advice from agencies such as the Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services, which is mandated to forecast the course of an oil spill. So it damages our own reputation, the country's reputation in front of the international community, because it can erode the confidence of the community in the country's ability to fulfill its commitments within the UN system to protect the marine life and biodiversity. And also, failure to safeguard marine turtle and bird habitats is also a clear violation of the provisions of the Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals. So this is important organization for prelims examination, and it's specific memorandum because on the Indian Ocean, South Asian region, to which India is already a signatory. And what are the effects of this oil spill? So the creatures and the habitat and the ecosystem are severely affected by this oil spill, especially fishes, seabirds, turtles that are found on the sea surface or on the shorelines if the oil comes ashore. And it can also lead to bioaccumulation in organisms. So there are three, if you know, it's bioaccumulation, biomagnification, and bioconcentration. So one of the reasons bioaccumulation in organisms is, can be through oil spill. Now, if you look at some of the history of the conventions and action plans, so government has approved the National Oil Spill Disaster Contingency Plan in November 1993, designating the Indian Coast Guard as the central coordinating agency. And India has also ratified in 2015 the International Convention on Civil Liability for Bunker Oil Pollution Damage, which ensures adequate, prompt, and effective compensation for damage caused by oil spills. And since 2011, Oil Spill India is an international forum on oil spill prevention, preparedness, response, and restoration system. Has also been showcasing best practices, technologies, and experiences on oil spill management. And also recently, 2016, there was a convention in Mumbai by this organization with the theme of commitment, synergy, and excellence. So way forward in this, should be that there should be heavy penalties on the owner of these tankers. And also there should be a strict implementation of the guidelines and procedures on how to act quickly in the case of oil spills to reduce the further damage that will be caused due to ecosystem. Now, trade transit piece is basically a new idea that is being suggested by Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti of Jammu Kashmir on opening up of a new trade route that would actually negate the regional conflict. So this route will actually connect the diverse communities now suffering under the long simmering India-Pakistan conflict. And she also held up that Kashmir as the most game-changing trading nucleus connecting South Asia and Central Asia. So if you remember, when we were covering the the India-China relations editorial yesterday, we talked about the problems of connectivity in South Asia, which hampers the diplomatic cooperation. So this is in context of that. This can be also read in the context of that, because India and specifically South Asia has a lot of road connectivity issues with the neighboring nations. So a new trade route is what the new is what is being proposed by the Chief Minister of the state. So what will be the benefits of this? So the route is supposed to deliver regional cooperation, energy transformation, trade and transit, with Kashmir at its central point, and such an arrangement will also supplement the CPEC through this part of Kashmir. So it can be linked to the CPEC, which already India has been invited by China and Pakistan on working with CPEC. So this can actually help in creating a gateway for India through the CPEC and OBOR. And if you look at the pre-partition route, so her ideas basically derives from the history of old routes, which people took to supply goods across civilizations. If you look at during the period of the Kushanas, the ancient Silk Route was very famous, and then the partition actually cut off the trade routes to Central Asia. Post partition, it also blocked the road connection between India and Pakistan, carrying goods westwards, and Kashmir was one of the most affected by this closure of the trade routes. Now, her proposal is to reunite the two Kashmirs, Kashmir of Pakistan and Kashmir of India. So it is possible that she has been encouraged by the opening of some trading contacts within the two Kashmirs, and she wants to take them forward, and she wants them to connect the two Kashmiris divided by Pakistan and India, that is through the Suchetgarh, Sialkot, Kargil, Skardu, Bandipora, Gurez, Gilgit and Nowshera, Mirpur with roads for free movement of people and goods. But there will be definitely issues between the bilateral cooperations, and there will be bilateral concerns. One of the biggest is that the hostile Pakistan has stood between India and its potential trade partners in Central Asia, whether it's SAARC or any other organization. Whenever there is a cooperation agreement, Pakistan tries to dismantle it or always cause roadblocks to it. The other is that the road that's once linked the two are now corridors of conflict. Pakistan is fighting with itself instead of terrorists along the Chaman and Khyber Pass. So Khyber Pass basically links the Afghanistan and Iran side, and trade that passes through is mostly heroin from poppy grown in Afghanistan. So the Khyber Pass basically links Pakistan and Afghanistan, and but then the biggest issue is that it is notoriously famous as the Golden Crescent, and Golden Crescent is basically the area in south, one of the most notorious area in South Asia, which is famous for trade route of heroin. So the poppy which is grown in Afghanistan, it's one of the biggest growers of cultivators of poppy in the world, through which heroin is made, and then it passes through Khyber Pass bypass and comes to Pakistan, and eventually Pakistan also pushes that into states of Punjab and Jammu Kashmir. These drugs are basically travel to India through these borders, or through the Bangladesh border, or through the Nepal border. The other thing about this heroin industry is the Golden Triangle. So the second area which is notoriously famous for this heroin trade is the Southeast Asian nations of Burma, Vietnam, Thailand, and Laos, which are famous for these heroin and drug related issues. Now, the other issue is that Pakistan also sees India's hand in its trouble with Afghanistan. India sees threats from the trade corridor China is building with Pakistan, that is the CPEC, and a lot of times Balochistan has been the simmering point between India and Pakistan. And India also exited the Iran gas pipeline because it could not trust Pakistan as the transit state. So if you remember, there was an Iran-Pakistan-India pipeline proposal which has now been dismantled and scrapped due to security concerns, because Pakistan was not able to provide any credible support of security and alleviating the security concerns of India and Iran. And it seems that trade threatens war instead of spreading peace, so where economies can't grow on their own. So even though it's a good proposal, but then it's marred by a lot of bilateral issues and concern. But then you can use this these points from these editorials in case if there's a question on the bilateral relations between India and Pakistan, and can be answered as a way forward measure. Now the next article is talking about urbanization and what should be the ideal way of dealing with the problems of urbanization, and how to go about better planning. So with Indian cities and towns, already they are struggling with a lot of urbanization issues. The management of rapid urban expansion will remain one of the most important challenges over the next decade. So the biggest challenge for our policymaker is that with our cities and towns already struggling the management of rapid urban expansion, but then the inevitable consensus in this discussion is that the solution lies in better planning. But nobody knows what is better planning. So what exactly is better planning? So before we go to that, whenever there is a comparison between the planning of cities in India, there is always a comparison with other cities like Singapore, Dubai, etc. So most people compare Chandigarh with one of the most planned city, which is one of the most planned city in India, well-planned city in India actually, with that to Singapore. But the problem is that the irony is that Singapore's approach is the exact opposite of Chandigarh's planning, and the mix-up is the root of the urban failure in India. And good urban development is actually about creating a brilliant plan and then implementing it meticulously as possible. So either there are issues of creating a proper plan, and if there is a proper plan, there is no proper implementation. So there are similar stories in different cities like Navi Mumbai, Kolkata, Bidhannagar, that is Salt Lake, Durgapur, etc. These cities are yet to create a successful urban hub even after 2 generations of trying, and India still depends on the colonial era cities of this place. And meanwhile, the boom towns of Bengaluru and Gurugram, they actually continue to grow by ignoring all the rudiments of planning. Obviously, there is issues of urban floods in Chennai, and there was in Gurugram as well. So what's the alternative way? So if you look at the Singapore's model, what's their biggest advantage? That they take their plans less seriously because they are actually flexible in drawing a plan and implementing them, which is one of the biggest drawbacks that we do not have in India. And instead, they seem as working frameworks of reference that evolve along the city. So their plans is constantly updating. Their approach is based on the idea that city is a living ecosystem, and whenever there is a need to change it, they will be flexible enough to change the plan. And it has basically these all reasons basically which has helped Singapore to transform itself from a British naval outpost to a container shipment port, and then from an electronics manufacturing cluster to a financial center, and then most recently to an education and an entertainment hub. Now, what are the suggested alternatives? The first is that there should be an organic approach to planning, which is about thinking out scenarios and building in optionally rather than meticulously laying out an ideal end state. So there should not be any fixed closure of mind or like compartmentalized planning. There should be different scenarios on what will happen if plan A does not succeed, and what will happen if plan B does not succeed. So you should have alternative plans, and one must also accept that some urban interventions will succeed and while others will fail. So you have to be flexible and constantly update the maps of the real city, which is more important than the idealized map of master planning. So constant monitoring is required for that, and the focus should be on managing constant transitions rather than reaching on the end point. And because even if there's a mediocre plan, even if you do not have the best plan, it can also work. But if you properly implement it, but without decent management, it's not workable at all. And from Dubai to Shanghai, it's not even about Singapore. All these cities basically value flexibility, which is much more than the Indians, and they also place great emphasis on mapping ground reality in contrast to Indian civic authorities who treat the official plan as if it is the only reality. So even though the flexible approach is required, it has its own downsides. For instance, iconic buildings are torn down routinely in Singapore when they no longer serve a practical purpose. But then India obviously has a lot of affinity towards iconic buildings. even in spite of the fact that they take up a lot of space and they are not workable at all. So Indian cities, contrary to popular belief, suffer from too much belief in planning and not enough emphasis on management. Therefore, India needs to focus on managing these cities like Gurugram and Bengaluru better, rather than dreaming of another Chandigarh. So you can link this particular topic with urban planning, smart cities and Amrut mission, and then you can utilize the points from this and the Singapore model and in question related to urban management and urban planning. So this is it for this video, guys. I hope you like the video. Till next video, I hope you have a good day and thank you so much.